Today on the Diz List, we give advice to first-timers headed to Walt Disney World.
Welcome to this list, the pod list that casts
Keep
everything.
Keep it.
Listen, if you guys knew how...
This is great. Okay, let me make fun of myself first.
Yeah.
So most of the time, and I'm saying truly 97% of the time, I nail the intro. I goof it up sometimes. Today I goofed it up.
Yeah, and then it was in my head.
I know, and we laughed and laughed. So I just want to say, yes, Nick screwed up, but I need to admit it's my fault.
The pod list that casts everything.
I did. I think that's what I said. I recorded over it. Otherwise, I would play it right now.
I think you said welcome to the list, and I was like...
I think you're right.
All right, so welcome to the Diz List, the podcast that lists everything in Walt Disney World. I'm Nick.
Wow, and I'm Rob, and... Today, I know we probably don't have a lot of people listening who are first-timers, but maybe. So this is one of those episodes where, A, it's fun to listen to, just to hear, oh, this would be a cool thing, or this would be a cool thing, but this is a great one to send to a friend who you know is going to Disney World too.
This is a huge one for people who are listening, who have friends, who are sick of hearing their advice. Mm-hmm. And you can say to them, here, these people are going to tell you the same thing, but with different voices.
Yeah. So that's what we're doing.
It's kind of like, you have kids. They don't do what you ask them to. Then somebody comes in and says the same exact thing you did, and they're like, "Oh, okay, sure." Yeah, like because it's a different voice.
Well, I'm your son's teacher,
right?
And he won't listen to you, and then he'll walk in my room and
my son's really good.
No, I know.
My daughter, on the other hand,
well, that's true. Your daughter would be a better example.
The second born. It's always that second born. She keeps me on my toes.
News this week. There isn't a ton. So you have one, and I just have two quick ones that I'll talk about just because I think this stuff is kind of interesting. Again, if you're a first timer, this is probably news to you. But at Disney World, there are two water parks.
Correct.
There used to be one a long time ago that I think I went to. I got to ask my mom about that.
River Country.
River Country. Yeah, and I swear there's a photo of me, like, climbing across this lake.
Probably.
I don't know. But it could be SeaWorld or one of those other places when I was little. Anyway, there's two water parks. There's Typhoon Lagoon and there's Blizzard Beach. Mm-hmm. And when one of them is open, one of them is closed because generally when you're working with anything that has any kind of water, standing water, it's really important that gets cleaned out and refurbished on a regular basis. Yeah. So you'll see any log flume rides, any of those things that have water, they need to take care of on a regular basis.
It's usually a week to 2 weeks.
You don't see it as much with rides like Small World, but you'll see it with like the former Splash Mountain, the current Tiana's. They'll do that all the time.
Yep.
And another one, before I get back into the water parks here, speaking of which, Kali River Rapids is supposed to reopen because they did the refurbishment on that, and that's going to open mid-March of this year.
Yeah.
So very soon. But when Typhoon Lagoon is open, Blizzard Beach is closed and being refurbished, and then they flip.
They sometimes are open at the same time.
Yeah, but very particularly, this says Blizzard Beach is closing May 1st. Typhoon Lagoon is opening the same day.
Right.
So one opens, one closes.
And it's usually the winter time when if they're going to pick stuff, it's usually the winter they try to do this stuff. May 1st seems late, I think, to me, but maybe not.
But it's still warm enough, and if you really think about it too, Nick, imagine if you're doing your vacation through that time and you enjoy going to water parks, you could do both that week. Wouldn't that be cool?
It would be.
I mean, do Blizzard Beach
that
on one day,
time,
either the next day or a few days later, then you get to do Typhoon Lagoon.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a water park person, but somebody who is, I think that'd be pretty cool that you get to do both in the same trip.
I've told this story on the show a long time ago, but my cousin's ex-husband used to be a lifeguard at Typhoon Lagoon.
Yeah.
And one of the things that they used to have there, it's since filled in. It's like a big area now where they have, you know what I'm going to say?
Yeah, the swimming.
Yeah, they had an area where you could swim with sharks. So you put on a mask, you put on a snorkel, and he was the lifeguard there for the swimming with the sharks. And we put on our mask, and my sister and I swam across, but they had it was like a nurse shark. It was a shark that was, it's relatively harmless.
Yeah.
But it was really, really far down. And I can't tell you because you know how bad I am at estimating distance.
Rob's about to say 175 feet.
I don't know. Maybe But it was pretty far down, and you could see that shark at the bottom, but the shark wasn't coming up. So anyway, that's one of my interesting
This is
memories
before
from Typhoon Lagoon.
This is before Disney was worried about like animal cruelty stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
hey, let's put these kids in here.
Yeah, well, there's chlorine and kids are peeing in it, I'm sure. You know.
Yeah, I know. I doubt it was chlorine. It's probably
salt water.
It was a salt water. Yeah, I mean, you can have a saltwater pool in your backyard.
Yeah,
So,
my friend Todd does.
yeah. So that's opening, it's opening May 1st.
Yep, May 1st, and then Kali River Rapids is going to reopen mid-March. So there's not a ton of news. I mean, we talked about a lot of it last week. There's a lot of big stuff that happened. If you didn't hear last week's show, go back, watch us on YouTube, or listen to the podcast and listen to the first half of the show. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, this week, the one thing I did see that I thought was an interesting headline, it's something I predicted, is that Disney is expecting major losses when it comes to Snow White.
Yeah.
So by all accounts, it definitely cost into the $200 million range to make the movie, and likely closer to $300 after all the reshoots they had to do. They're looking at possibly losing up to $100 million on this production.
Yikes.
And I think that's why they're not even bothering advertising, because they know if you were going to see it, you're going to see it anyway.
Yeah.
I've seen maybe the trailer show up 4 or 5 times on regular TV.
Yeah, a few times.
And on my YouTube feed, which should be dominated by Disney ads.
Yeah, right.
I've seen it maybe 4 or 5 as well.
It's a movie I'll watch. I don't know if I'll go to the theater to watch it.
Right.
I didn't go see Mufasa in the theater. I didn't go see Moana 2, which is very unlike me because usually I go. Right. You did see Mufasa, you told me? Or
I
not
did
yet?
not. My kids did. They were okay. They were
okay.
I'm waiting up for both of them. There were a lot of movies that came out around the same time. I probably would have typically had it just come out, and it was the only movie I was interested in seeing. Probably would have went to the theater for that one, because I do love Lion King that much. But it was like Mufasa, Wicked, and Moana 2 all at the same time. It was like, I kind of want to see all these, so I'm just going to wait on all of them and see them at home, sit back with my own popcorn that isn't $25 for a bucket, and more comfortable, and I don't have to run into, no offense, but I don't have to run into students at the theater.
No.
You know how that goes. I mean,
I do.
So
Oh my
for
gosh.
me, it's just, I'd rather sit at home.
I didn't tell you. I don't think I told you the story. I told our friend we work with, Mark. I told him this. We went to go see Captain America.
Yeah.
I didn't tell you the story?
No.
So we go to see Captain America, and this group of teenage boys walks in.
Okay.
And they're sitting, I don't know, maybe 6 rows away. And this is going to point right back to, and I know what you're going to say after I tell the story, and you're welcome to say it.
Okay.
And I know it. And you're already thinking, oh, I'm ready to say it.
No, I don't know. Go ahead.
Well, because Nick doesn't love to go to the movies.
I hate going to
for
movies.
a lot of reasons. And this is going to help cement him. So these teenage boys, throughout the movie, yelling, putting their hands over their mouth to do the flatulent sound.
What?
And at one point,
Are they students of ours?
No.
Okay.
No. One kid jumped and tackled another kid. His feet
In the theater?
In the theater. His feet were hanging in the air, and he stayed there for a good 5 minutes. I'm just seeing these 2 shoes popping up.
I would have gotten up. I would have gotten up, got them, and been like, what are you doing?
I had this discussion with my wife about was I going to do anything. The problem is, it wouldn't have done
I'm
any
angry
good,
for you.
and I want to embarrass my wife or my kids because.
Was it locally? Were you at the local theater, or were you in Rochester?
We were, and the problem is at this theater, it's ran by teenagers.
Yep.
So it was a bummer. And I will say the majority of the time things are fine when I go out to the movies, but we were dealt a rough hand with that particular
Were there
crowd.
other people in there besides them?
Maybe 2 other families were in there. And, I said a couple times to my wife, I said, do you want me to do something and take care of this? She goes, no, I don't, it's going to be embarrassing. And
I'd be all about it. I don't care. I would embarrass the hell out of them. That I'm angry for you. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it was.
Oh.
I remember the next day I came in to work and I was talking to our friend Mark.
Yeah.
Because Mark wanted to go with us.
Right.
And it was over vacation.
He would have gotten up.
Well, because he loves the Marvel movies too and wanted to go. Not that you don't, but
No, I know.
Him and his wife love going to the movies, so we go with them a lot of times. And he's like, "Oh, how was the movie?" I'm like, "Well, the movie was pretty decent. It was better than I thought, but the crowd in the movie was, yeah."
Can you imagine if you're a teenage kid though, and this particular friend we're talking about is a big big man.
Oh yeah, he played what, offensive or defensive line in college. He is a big guy. He's like 6'2", and
he's big.
Yeah,
so
I won't say his weight, but he's a big guy.
Yeah, if I were a teenager and that guy walked up to me and said, "Sit down and shut up," I would be like, yes, sir."
He's got like the big beard. Oh my gosh. Anyway,
all right.
So I know we got off on a tangent there, but
that's okay. That's okay. There's not a lot of news, so we'll round out our halftime here, our pre-halftime stuff a little bit. If you don't notice, so Rob's wearing a Roosevelt. I am wearing a Magic merch shirt because we're ready to announce what our giveaway is. We have been talking about it, teasing it a little bit. At the end of March, our final show in March is after that show is done, whoever is subscribed to us on YouTube, we are going to do a drawing for a free shirt from magicmerch.art. Any shirt, any t-shirt you want.
We have
a lot of designs, but we'll also be adding some stuff here coming up.
Yeah. We added a couple new ones recently.
Yep.
I have a few ready to go. I didn't want to throw them all up there at once because I know we like to do a little bit at a time, but I have some ready.
Right. So free t-shirt from magicmerch.art. And you could even, we have Dizzless ones too. So if you want to rep the podcast,
that would be
you could do that too.
That would be cool.
But it'll be free shirt shipped to your door, whatever one you want, whatever size you want.
Cool.
So that's kind of that's what we've been teasing the giveaway, and it is going to be solely for whoever subscribed to us on YouTube. We're going to randomize those people in a drawing after our last show of March. So you have the month of March to get subscribed if you're not already subscribed over there. But we are going to head after the halftime show, and we'll see you right after this. Welcome back. This half of the show, we're going to be talking about. Wow, I'm rough. I'm having a rough day today.
Well,
we're going to be talking about.
So am I.
Tips for first timers. We have some good ones, and we decided to kind of do this where we're going to bounce back and forth. It's not going to be like our top 5.
No, because they're all good.
They're all good. Yep.
Yeah, they're all good. It's hard to say a number one. So we discussed before doing the show that this isn't really like a top 5 or a top 6.
But it is a list.
It is. It's a list. But these are just good things that you can use. And I'll start off quick. And this is an easy one. Is my best advice for first timers, if you're going, and some of these are kind of specific for kids, but in general, it's for just anybody going to the parks for the first time. So my best advice is when you go, there's a lot of different unique forms of transportation that are, I don't want to say like the sky. So the Skyliner is one of them. Right?
It's a unique one, yeah.
There's Skyliners other places in the world, but this one is very unique to
not
Disney
as a transportation mode.
Because of transportation mode, because of the fun stickers. Every single car has a different, maybe not a different. I don't know if they duplicate or not. I don't want to say that.
They do duplicate, but it's
very rare. I would say an estimate. They probably have 70 to 100 different designs. Would you say more?
I'd say less.
Okay, less than that.
You're getting into Ursula's height.
Okay,
area of estimation.
Well, at least
I'm just kidding.
No, it's fine. It's.
I mean, there's
I'm not
probably
insisting that
I would
right
say
here.
15 to 25. Enough that when you don't see them, you're not going to wait there for the Skyliner and see the same thing go by.
Right, and you don't want to sit there and wait for the Haunted Mansion one just because you want the Haunted Mansion.
No,
right.
You might be there a while.
You're not going to do that. So I would recommend ride the Skyliner. Okay, find it, ride that. Maybe have a day where you're not going to the parks and you're just kind of, exploring and moving around. The monorail is a must. That definitely is my number one of all the different fun types of transportation. And again, they have
my number 2. I like Skyliner best,
but. And that's fine. And then the only other one, it's not unique. Trains aren't unique, but there's still a lot of people, maybe some listeners included, who have never ridden a traditional train. Okay, and I know it's very common, especially, where you're from in the Adirondacks originally. There's a lot of, they do train rides and things like that through there. But the train in the Magic Kingdom is something that you should definitely ride if you're a first-timer. So
oh, yeah.
My advice here is try to find these unique modes of transportation, ride them, because it's not really something you can do in a lot of different places in the U.S., especially the monorail and the Skyliner.
Yep.
So,
I mean, the monorail is... The monorail at Walt Disney World is the highest trafficked monorail system in the world.
Wow.
Yep.
So I know
So-
they're very popular in a lot of the Asian continents.
high speed rail. Oftentimes, in cities is they are monorails. So mine, one thing I would say is kind of to piggyback off of that as far as the transportation goes, and to make sure that you do those things and experience those things is you should also really take time to study the map / My Disney experience.
Right.
So understand that if you get on that monorail, you're not taking that monorail to Hollywood Studios.
Mm-hmm.
Understand where it drops you off, in front of Epcot. You might let's say you don't have a park hopper, for instance. Okay. And you're like, well, that's okay. I just don't want to have to ride the bus back to Epcot. I'm going to get on the monorail from Magic Kingdom, TTC, jump over to the Epcot line, go over there. Well, good, but you don't have a park hopper, you're not getting to your resort.
Because you can't get through Epcot
Correct.
if you're staying at Beach Club
Right.
or Boardwalk or Swan and Dolphin.
So just know where it's dropping you. Know your map. Know the My Disney Experience app, which is, I think, kind of like a whole other tip. But like knowing the lay of the land is so important because what you'll find is that what you think you can do, you might not be able to do. Like thinking, just like I said, well, there's a monorail that brings you to Epcot. I'll take that. I'm staying at the Beach Club. I'll take that line. Well, if it's your first time, and these are mistakes that people make, and I have seen people make these mistakes. I've been in line behind people who are saying things. And I'm like, do I tell them? Do I not tell them? Like, do I let them figure this out on their own?
Right.
Because I don't want to be that guy either. But I've seen people make these mistakes. Knowing the lay of the land is super important. So that way you can figure out what modes of transportation to take. On the My Disney Experience side, I know you have strong feelings about this too, but like studying that app because it's so difficult.
Oh yeah.
So that's part of the lay of the land. That's like a map in a way because it offers a map there, and actually they will give you walking directions. So like if you're first time in the park and you are at, let's say, Space Ranger Spin in Magic Kingdom, and you want to do
Jungle Cruise,
whatever, yeah, sure, next. You can click on Jungle Cruise and say get directions, and it will give you walking directions there.
Yep. Because
you might not realize the way to get there. I mean, for us, it seems silly that you wouldn't know how to get there because we do it so often. But to somebody new, you don't know. And you might not even realize you're right next to something that, like, for instance, I find it always interesting, like, Little Mermaid is kind of in a weird spot, right? Not a weird spot, but, like, it's very easy to not realize that Little Mermaid
it's even
is
there at all.
Yeah. Right.
Because it's hidden behind another giant attraction.
Correct. So I kind of feel like that's another one where you might be at, let's say you're at Small World and you want to go to Little Mermaid. Like, how do I get there? So study a map and study My Disney Experience so you can take advantage of those things. That's one of my biggest tips for
when I went to Disneyland, that's exactly what I did because I went for the first time a couple years ago, and I went on the My Disney Experience app and I memorized to the best I could both of those two parks at Disneyland and where things were. And I did pretty well, but I made mistakes too, and I needed the map. But that's a great one. Highly, highly recommend that too because it's something I did.
Yeah.
Because Disneyland was a first time for me.
Yeah.
So the other one I would recommend, and obviously we're not going to talk about Disneyland too much here, but this would also apply to Disneyland, is there's a certain park order that I would recommend if you're a first timer.
Yes.
So I would recommend if you're going to Disney World or Disneyland is going to the castle parks first. I just think if you're going with young kids, it's like an amazing reveal to a young person, or it doesn't matter what age you are. You walk in and you see that castle and it just, it's mesmerizing. It's incredible. So I would recommend doing the parks in a certain order.
For your first time.
For your first time.
Yes.
Then, like, we don't always, we shuffle it every time.
Yeah.
And I like to do that on purpose. I have my favorite park, but sometimes I like to put it in, and it's kind of like creating a playlist.
Yes.
So when you're creating a playlist or you're putting out an album by a group, you want to start with a banger right away.
Yeah.
So
and
for me, it's
Cinderella's Castle.
You want to start with Magic Kingdom. Okay. Yeah. Now for you, your second favorite is Epcot. My second favorite. Your first favorite is Epcot. So I would recommend the second park you go to is Epcot.
I agree.
And then from there, I'll be completely transparent here. I would say you could do either park next. You could do Animal Kingdom or Hollywood Studios in any order. And I just think, as far as like, if you're looking at the history of Walt Disney World, you're going to the first park, the second park. And even though MGM Studios was technically the third park, both of those two, in my eyes, I think would be a good third and fourth. You could put them in either order, and there's an argument for either one.
I fully agree that you need to go to Magic Kingdom first if it's your first time.
Yes.
That whole walking in underneath the train station, boom, there's the castle. You don't get that moment back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't, like, you can't recreate that moment. And if it's your first trip to Disney, you're going to be overwhelmed, especially with kids. They're going to be overwhelmed already if you go to all the other ones. And that's not going to be as a grandiose a thing.
Correct.
However, when you walk in there and you look and you see that castle and your kid sees that castle, it's going to be so powerful for them. It's going to be, when we talk about core memories, I mean, that's a core memory.
Yeah.
So I agree. Making sure that you understand what your park order is.
Well, it's like if you're recommending a group to somebody, or we'll say a rock band because it's easiest for my example. If I'm going to introduce to you, hey, Nick, I got this new band I want to show you.
Yep.
You're going to start with the song that you think is going to be the one that's going to have the impact. Because if you start
their biggest hit.
Right. If you start with Animal Kingdom, which I like, but if you start with that one and say, hey, check this out, they'll go, yeah, it's kind of cool. You know, it's got this and that. You want to start with that big gun right away.
I agree.
I would say park order is my advice for first time.
I'm going to kind of slide in because one of the ones I have, you didn't really, I mean, you mentioned it, but you didn't. And it had to do with, you said, well, second, then you would go to Epcot. So Epcot's got that beautiful, they call them park weenies for those of you who are Disney newbies. But that icon, right, of Spaceship Earth. Don't assume that your kid is not going to like Epcot. My kids love Epcot. In fact, I think it's probably my son's favorite park, like mine. I think my daughter leans toward Magic Kingdom, but like Epcot is phenomenal, even with kids. There's plenty to do. You've got Kid Cot in the back. You've got there's a bunch of games you can do on the, is it Play Disney or it's off on the My Disney Experience, but I think it's Play Disney.
Yeah.
Yep. And so there's stuff you can do that are like scavenger hunts. If you're there during a festival, they've got the cool scavenger hunts like the Find Remy and stuff like that. Trying different foods. Kids like to get in, like, you know, some of the kids are like, oh yeah, I'm going to try this and gross dad out, you know, whatever. Like,
let's try. Wait, what was the shake you had?
The dill pickle shake.
The dill pickle shake.
It was really good, actually. You know, trying these different foods might really be cool to them, or just simply walking around inside of the different, like in Norway, my son loves the Stave Church, and going inside of there and reading all the things about like the Norse gods.
Oh yeah, we went in there with you. That
and
was
it's also the best air conditioning in all of Walt Disney World.
Probably right.
You know, and there's really good rides, but don't assume your kids are going to be bored at Epcot. It is not the Epcot of old, in my opinion. You know, you're not going in there to Ellen's Energy Adventure. You're going into Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, which is one of the most epic rides ever.
Yeah.
So don't assume that kids won't like Epcot if you're planning your first trip to Disney.
I mean, don't make assumptions in general.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. Don't make assumptions about what you're going to like and what you're not going to like in general. What else you got?
This one is one of my favorites, and I figure it's a good one for me to end on. And I don't have a ton, but I think this is a very, very important one for me, especially on your first time, and that is start a tradition. And there's couple.
You're a big tradition guy.
I am, and there's a lot of them that are here. And if you're watching us on YouTube, I'm looking to the left. I have kind of a longish list here, but all of them I think are really cool. And feel free to jump in if you want to make a comment, because this second one I know is right up your alley. So the first one is get a photo in front of the castle, or get a group photo somewhere. So in our house, we have a frame that has photos of every single trip that we went on, and the four of us together in front of the castle. So maybe it's not in front of the castle. Maybe you do a photo in front of the Epcot ball, or somewhere that means something to your family, and create that as a tradition.
Can I add on real quick?
Yeah, please.
Memory Maker. So your first time,
Yeah.
starting the tradition. But if your tradition is special, if you're a picture family, you have to get Memory Maker.
Yeah.
Go on. I just need to make sure.
But again, I'll elaborate on that too. If you can't afford that, which I still recommend doing that, but if you can't and it's not in your budget, you can hand your phone or your camera to the photo person, and they will take a picture for you. They're great.
Yep.
This one, I'll throw to you a little bit, is every time you go, you get mini ears. So I know this is a big thing in your family too.
Yes. So like one of the things my daughter does is collect mini ears. And so whenever we go, she usually gets, 1 or 2 pairs of ears.
Mm-hmm.
And you might be thinking, well, those are so expensive. What we do is we save up like our returns money from like soda cans and stuff like that, water bottles, whatever your return, if you're in a state that does deposits and stuff. And all of that money throughout the year goes into the kids. They get a gift card. And, that's what they have to shop with. And so they can budget.
Cool.
And my daughter can decide, do I want those mini ears or those mini ears? And some years it's like, I want something from Epcot. So she's got like the mini riding the Vespa mini ears from a couple years ago. And I think this summer she got spoiled because her uncle was with her. But I believe but she got a couple different pairs. But those are memories she's going to have. And she remembers what trip she got them on. So
another one I have is favorite restaurant. So we always, every time, no matter what, we eat at Satuli Canteen.
Okay.
We just love it. Other parks will kind of hop around and try different restaurants, but we always have one that we always go to. I always like to get a mug. Let me grab it. I have it. I have 2 actually ready to go. I try to get a mug every time, and I know collecting mugs, Nick has told me, is a really big thing with Disney fans. I'm not like a big mug collector.
Especially the Starbucks ones.
I just get one every time. So this is a Starbucks one, and I know this is not great for podcasting, but I have a Magic Kingdom one I just showed, and then another one I have is this cool Haunted Mansion one that I got last time that's color changing, and the bats show up when you put hot coffee in it, so that's pretty cool. Yep. So a mug, an ornament. I know you guys do
we do the ornaments for wherever we stayed that year.
We do a magnet for every resort that we stay at, so we have those on our fridge to represent that. And then last but not least, and this is going to sort of turn into a plug for our shirt website, but that's not the purpose, is group t-shirts.
Yeah.
So there's so many people that just kind of get them through their travel agent or whatever, and they're red and they all have, dad and mom. A lot of people do that. I don't personally like those. I like the ones that are a little more funny and unique and have some flair to them. So I can tell you 2 that we have on Magic Merch, unless you think of one else. One is, we wore these when we went to Epcot, is each of us had a shirt with our favorite country on it. Our favorite country's flag inside the silhouette of Figment.
Correct.
So we have those on Magic Merch, I believe. They're still up, right?
Oh, yeah.
So we have those. And then another one that we did that I made these. I don't think we can sell these legally.
No.
Is each one of the 7 dwarves' faces.
Yeah.
So we did is what we can do legally is what we made is we put the name of each dwarf on a shirt and did the corresponding color to the dwarf. So like Grumpy and Sneezy. So that would be kind of a fun group situation to do. Can you think of any others that might be sort of fun?
I mean, I think that I'm not a group shirt guy, but like in a typical group shirt, but the shirts that we did, I felt were more subtle.
Yes.
And so they weren't as big of a thing. We got a lot of compliments on the Figment ones. The Figment one is my favorite one that we have.
I still wear that one pretty frequently.
I do too. I was going to wear it today, then I was like, oh wow, I worn it so much that like I got to get a new one because the print's starting to come off because it's that old.
Yeah. And that was from a previous printer too.
Yeah.
But I could go on and on forever, and I don't want to, and I'm going to give you a chance to do the rest of your list here. But if there's so many different traditions that you can use, those were just a couple as suggestions. And a lot of times you'll do stuff on your first trip, and then when you go back the second time, you're like, hey, last time we were here, I rode with you on this ride.
Yeah.
Maybe that we do that every time. And like I ride with my daughter on the Little Mermaid ride because I like to annoy her, and I'll sing the songs and it drives her nuts, and it's kind of, in a fun way. Like we goof around and it's great. So whenever we ride Little Mermaid, I ride with my daughter for that particular reason. But I'm going to hand it back to you. You have 2 more, or how many do you have?
I've got a couple, but so one of the things I'm going to say is that we really think that it's really important that we budget time. Time at Disney World is not time other places. What I mean by that is that, like, when you think you have enough time to get somewhere at Disney, you don't. Couple reasons. You don't. It's transportation there is unpredictable. If you're relying on the bus, if you're relying on budget twice as much time as you think you need. Okay, if you think, oh, we're going to go over to Disney Springs, it's going to take me a couple hours over in Disney Springs, and then we're going to do Hollywood Studios afterward. Budget 4 hours. If you think it's going to be, oh, it's going to be like 45 minutes for lunch, budget an hour and a half. Just make sure you're budgeting enough time because it's not ever enough. It really isn't. And I don't mean like that you're going to run into situations where like you're late for your reservation or whatever. I just mean like you think that you're only going to spend a certain amount of time somewhere and you realize, I really like this. You know, Disney Springs is a perfect example. Mm-hmm. It is not going to a mall. You're not just going to go to the world of Disney, shop, and leave. Because you got to walk by the Lego store and then you're waiting in line for the Lego store. Oh, wait, there's not a very long line for Gideon's. Let me go get a cookie. Oh, wow, look at the Columbia store that's got cool, unique Disney Columbia stuff. And it's always well priced. Let me go into the Columbia. Before you know it, your 45-minute trip from the car into go to the World of Disney has turned into you spending an hour and a half in Uniqlo looking at all the crazy T-shirts or, you know, whatever. Mm-hmm. So budget more time than you think you need for the first time. And I would say that includes the length of trip if you can afford it, to budget more time than you think you need.
Yep, definitely.
I know you kind of said you were done with your list, so I'm just going to jump into one more thing.
I have 3 big ones, so go for it.
The only other thing I have is you need to prioritize. You are not. Let me restate this. You are not going to do everything.
I've
at
tried.
Disney World.
I've come close, and I cannot do it.
You're just not good. It's not for a family going for their first time on a budget of whatever, right? You can't do it all. So prioritize and get those things done, and then the other things are icing on the cake.
Yes.
If your kid is a huge, Marvel fan, you've got to prioritize waiting in line, because now you can do that, for Cosmic Rewind. Mm-hmm. If your kid is a huge roller coaster fan, you have to prioritize waiting for Tron.
Yep.
You know, whatever the case may be, make those priorities things that are definitely getting done. And then the extra stuff kind of falls into place.
Or, for example, they're a fan of Frozen, right?
Yeah.
So you look at, okay, what are all the different offerings we can do for Frozen? Okay, at the Magic Kingdom, they have a Frozen stage show. At Epcot, they have the Frozen ride. Over at Hollywood Studios, they have the Frozen stage show. Okay, good. So when we're here, we're doing that. So make those the things that must-dos at those parks for you and your family.
Yeah. I mean, it's super important to prioritize when it comes to Disney because there is just so much to do.
Yep.
You're not getting it all done. It's just not happening. And I tried it. I mean, we went my first trip, famously my famous one and only trip. We went for 10 days and we didn't even scratch the surface. I mean, I'm still doing stuff when I go back, that I've never done before.
There's a handful of things I still haven't done that have been there. Still have never done Fantasmic.
Yeah, which is beyond
I know.
Crazy. But
very few things, but that's one of them.
But that's one of them, and it's a major one. But that's the point, is that even you who've been there that many times,
it just hasn't worked out for the day we were there last time. There's a hurricane. There's always something that comes up.
Yeah, because you were planning on doing it, and then it was. Guess you're not doing it because of the weather.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. Those things happen, but prioritize so you can get done what you want, and then the other stuff is all just gravy. And that's kind of like the big thing, because if you over expect, was it over promise under deliver?
Yeah.
That's not good for your family. So I think that's a pretty comprehensive list of all the things. There's a lot more. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you comment, leave a note in our comments about something you think that we left off this list.
Yep.
And be sure you're subscribed so that way you can be part of our giveaway. Also, jump on over to patreon.com/DizListPod. You can join for free. You don't have to be a paid member. Paid members do get early access to new episodes and bonus content. But if you do join for free, make certain you are sending me your Instagram handle, and I will add you to our close friends list so that way when we post exclusive stuff, you can see that.
Yep.
But Rob, you got anything to add?
Yeah, if you are a long-time listener and you listen every week, thank you very much. We appreciate it more than you know. If you are a first-time listener, thank you for listening or watching. We really, really appreciate it. We hope you come back again and check out our show. But back to our long-time listeners, if you have a friend who you know is thinking about maybe going to Disney, please share this episode. It would mean a lot to us. It helps us grow, and it helps get out all the great things there are about Walt Disney World to everybody else. So, do us that favor, and we would really appreciate it.
Yes. But thanks, guys, for listening. It's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow. Tomorrow is just a list away.
Tune in next time, and we'll see you real soon.